My dear friend, listen to me with all your attention. Today, I am going to share with you an ancient secret that Carl Jung discovered in that deep psychological laboratory of his, concerning the most vulnerable moments of the human soul. Now I want you to imagine something. The early hours of the morning. You step out of the safe door of your home and into the chaos of the world. You reach into your pocket and feel a heavy leather pouch there. But inside this pouch, there are no ordinary coins or paper banknotes. The pouch is filled with pure, unrefined, sparkling gold dust. This gold is not the kind of metal you could exchange at any jewelry store. Carl Jung would have called it psychic energy or libido. This is your life force. It is the glow of health in your children's eyes, the abundance in your work, the peace in your home, the invisible yet life-giving water flowing through your veins that keeps everything standing. And there you are, walking toward the elevator, stepping out onto the street with this priceless treasure in your pocket. Maybe you make eye contact with a neighbor at the bus stop, a colleague in the office corridor, or simply an old acquaintance you happen to meet on the road. The person in front of you is often not even aware of what they're doing. They're simply directing that cliché question at you as a social reflex. What's up? How are you? How's work going? And before you even realize it, as if hypnotized, you slip your hand into your pocket. You pull out that pouch full of gold, and just to be polite, just so it won't seem rude, you open that pouch all the way and pour handful after handful of gold dust at the feet of the person standing before you. You're scattering your own spiritual fuel into the air, just for her beautiful eyes, just for a fleeting conversation. Then evening comes. You collapse at the kitchen table. You don't even have the strength to lift your arm. You're trying to understand why that last deal fell through, why you suddenly argued with your spouse, why you've run out of patience with your child. You ask yourself if this is just bad luck. Why do I feel such a weight on me? No, my friend, this is neither bad luck nor a coincidence. While Carl Jung was working in that stone tower in Zurich, he studied the doors of the human soul and realized this: the mouth is the door of the soul. If you open that door all the way to everyone, all the warmth inside escapes, and the freezing winds of the outside world rush in. Jung teaches us that when we give the wrong answers to the wrong people at the wrong time, we surrender our own power with our own hands. Today, through the lens of Jung's analytical psychology, I will explain how to survive in a world of gossip, jealousy, and social masks. Why will you see that being intimate with strangers can be the most costly mistake you make in your life? How are those seemingly innocent things? We will examine step by step how this question is actually a psychological trap, how to free yourself from these traps using Jung's concept of the shadow, and how to protect the abundance in your home. And please don't let even the slightest bit of your attention slip away, because the psychological defense techniques I'm going to give you work flawlessly. However, as long as you carry the ticking time bomb I'll mention at the very end of the video in your pocket, even if you are the wisest person in the world, you will lose your power. Without this final rule, none of the others have any meaning. So stay with me until the end. Now we begin with our first line of defense. Jung called this the fog of the persona. In practical life, we call it the fuzzy numbers technique. Never, ever, under any circumstances, give exact numbers to people who are not in your inner circle. Carl Jung used to talk about a dark impulse lying beneath humanity's collective unconscious, the impulse to compare. Unfortunately, we live in a world that loves counting what other people have. An acquaintance comes up to you and asks, "How much did you pay for this car?" When someone asks how much your rent is, or how much salary was deposited, don't be mistaken. That person is not interested in mathematics. That person does not want to be your accountant. The shadow side of their subconscious wants to determine your coordinates. Where am I relative to them? Am I above? Am I below? This is not a data collection process. This is a hunter weighing its target. If, with that pure heart of yours, you say, I received exactly 50,000 under the mask of honesty, you are handing that person a key with your own hands to enter the bedroom of your soul. You turn yourself into a target. Look at how this psychological mechanism works. Let's look at it through Jung's eyes. If the number you state is lower than the other person's expectation, they immediately devalue you. A voice inside says, "Huh? That's cheap. So it must be low quality. So this guy isn't actually that successful." The joy you felt when buying that item is poisoned by his condescending looks. But if the amount you mention seems high to him, then the dark monster touched by Jung's shadow awakens, the monster of jealousy. Where did he get that kind of money? The fool got ripped off. If only I had that money, I would do it better, they think. Stating an exact figure activates the calculator in the other person's mind. From that moment on, they start calculating how much they can borrow from you, or they begin questioning why they don't have what you have, building up resentment toward you. Out of nowhere, you end up laying down a line of tension between the two of you. The fuzzy numbers technique allows you to become invisible in this dangerous game. You do not give people that protrusion they can hook you with. One day, while working in the garden of his tower in Bollingen, Carl Jung is approached by a young colleague. This young man has set his sights on a very rare and expensive antique book that Jung had acquired around that time. The book is lying on the table. The young man asks with that greedy glint in his eyes, "Sir, this is a magnificent piece. You must have paid a fortune for it. Exactly how many francs did it cost?" The young man is ready to hear the number and perhaps inwardly say it wasn't worth that much money or to envy Jung's wealth. But Jung takes a deep draw from his pipe. He slowly exhales the smoke into the air and with that legendary enigmatic smile of his says, "You know what? I paid a price that was fair enough to find its true value, yet reasonable enough that I wouldn't be embarrassed to place it in my library." The young man freezes. Did he get an answer? Yes. He heard a sentence. But does he have a number in his hands? No. His mind cannot place this answer anywhere. Should he be jealous? Or should he admire it? Should he laugh? Should he cry? He remains suspended in a void. Jung leaves that young person in a mist and then turns to his students and explains, if you give them a number, they buy that object in their minds and become co-owners of it. But if there is no number, that object belongs only to you. Let them wander as well. Your luck, your abundance, does not like accounting. Now let's move on to the second technique. We call this the depreciation of success. Listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to say is the exact opposite of the culture of those Instagram coaches in the modern world who say, show yourself, shine, be at the front. What have we been taught since school? Be successful. Raise your trophy high. Let everyone applaud you. But no one told us that that podium, that summit, is the loneliest place in the world and the one that gets hit by the most arrows. The depreciation of a second technical success is other people's jealousy. It is the art of catching that jealousy in mid-air and shattering it into pieces before it turns into a stone thrown into your garden. Let's look at Jung's archetypes. When people see someone else's success, they unconsciously confront the shadows of their own inadequacies. When you get a promotion, when you move into a new home, or when your child gets into a great school, you're overjoyed and want to share it. You run to your friends, to the people close to you. Look, you say, I did it. They smile. Congratulations, they say. But Jung would say, don't look at the words. Look at those fleeting micro-expressions. In the deepest part of their eyes, you'll see a split-second glimmer of pain. Why? Are they bad people? No. It's just that your light reminds them of their own darkness. Your new position reminds them that they've been rotting in the same seat for 5 years. Your spacious home screams to them about their own damp walls and debts they cannot pay. This is a completely unconscious process. At that moment, a high-voltage electric current forms between you and them. Anatolian wisdom calls this the evil eye. Jung calls it psychic projection. Whatever you call it, this negative energy accumulates. If you do not ground this electricity, it will shock you. They will undermine you at work. Friends stop calling. Relatives reopen old scorebooks. Depreciating success is a way of grounding this electricity. How? Whenever you express a success, an achievement of yours out loud, you immediately have to attach a painful prescription to the end of that sentence right then and there. You must show the cost of success. You need to dim your light a little so it doesn't blind anyone. Human psychology works like this. They forgive your wealth, but only if they know that you stayed up sleepless for it, that you took stress pills. They even forgive your gifted child, but only if they know that the child is very messy at home or that they make your life difficult. People can tolerate your success only when they see that you too are wounded in some way. That calms the jealous monster within them, that shadow. Aha, they say to themselves. Yes, the man became a manager, but look, his stomach has been perforated from stress. No, let me remain a civil servant, but stay healthy. And the balance is restored. Jealousy gives way to compassion or a harmless indifference. This is exactly what we want. A silent protective shield around our happiness. Let's give an example from one of Jung's patients. Let's say this man is a nouveau riche in Zurich. Let his name be Hans. Hans had worked his whole life and finally had a mansion built by the lakeside that, for its time, could be considered almost palace-like. The interior was oak-paneled and the chandeliers were crystal. Hans wants to host a celebratory dinner and invite everyone. Jung warns him, Hans, if you let those people into that house and walk them around saying, look at my parquet floors, look at my chandeliers, that house will become your grave. Tomorrow the tax authorities will be at your doorstep. The day after, the servants will start gossiping. Those people's negative energy will rot the foundation of the house. Hans is afraid. What should I do, doctor? Shouldn't I invite anyone? Invite them, Jung says. But tell them such a story that when they leave the house, they'll say, oh, poor Hans, what hardships he endures in this huge house. Complain, Hans. Complain more than you ever have. The dinner day is coming. The guests are scanning the room with such jealousy, it looks like their eyes might pop out of their sockets. You could cut that heavy, sticky energy in the air with a knife. Just then, someone says to Hans, your hall is so big, magnificent. Hans is using Jungun's tactic. He grabs his lower back and groans. Ah, don't ask, my friend, don't ask. It looks nice from the outside, doesn't it? But ask me about it. Heating this place costs a fortune. In winter we sit here wearing coats, freezing. Cleaning is a whole separate headache. My wife's hands are torn up from dusting. It echoes. A person feels lonely. Sometimes I say, I wish I had stayed in my old small apartment. At least it was warm and cozy. The guests look at each other. A faint smile appears on their lips. Then they praise the garden. Hans jumps in. The garden? Moles ruined everything, and because it's by the lake, the mosquitoes eat you alive. It's impossible to sit outside in the evening. They're sucking our blood. Do you know what happens at the end of the night? The people who grit their teeth when they arrive end up patting Hans on the shoulder as they leave and saying, don't be upset, Hans. Everything has a price. May God help you. A big house brings big troubles. And then they go. They leave not with jealousy, but grateful for their own situation. Oh, they say, our house is small, but at least it's easy to heat. Hans lived peacefully in that house. Because he grounded people's envy with the small fake troubles he created himself. Remember, my friend, if you want your ship to sail calmly across the ocean, don't raise all the sails at once. Otherwise, the storm born from other people's breath will capsize you. The third technique, the grey rock method. There are energy vampires in every area of our lives. This is not a mystical term. It is entirely psychological. Jung says that some people become dependent on the emotional reactions of others to fill their own inner emptiness. It could be your constantly criticizing mother-in-law. It could be a toxic, narcissistic boss, or just that nosy neighbor who thrives on chaos. Their nourishment is your emotions. It doesn't matter whether you get angry, cry, try to defend yourself, or become excessively happy. What matters to them is throwing you off balance, piercing that protective armor of your persona, and reaching the soft flesh inside. When that aunt asks, "So, are you still not married? Have you gained weight?" She's not really concerned about your health. She wants to watch your face turn red, hear your voice tremble, and see you struggle to defend yourself. In that moment, she is feeding on your life energy. If you get into an argument, you lose. If you cry, you lose. If you try to give them a logical explanation, you've already lost twice. Because you've handed them the key to your energy. The grey rock method is the art of becoming invisible in an open field. Think of an ordinary grey, dusty rock sitting by the side of the road. Do you want to kick it? No. Your foot would hurt. Would you pick it up and take it home? No. What use would it be to you? Would you argue with it? Don't be funny. You just walk past them and move on. Your job is to be that rock in the face of toxic people. To become the most boring, most unresponsive person in the world. They say something to you. You respond in that grey rock tone. Maybe they try to provoke you. You say, "That's your opinion." They try to hit you where you're most vulnerable. You shrug. The usual stuff. This does not mean staying silent, because sometimes staying silent is perceived as sulking, and sulking is also an intense emotion. This is becoming unpleasantly indifferent. The vampire bites you, but no blood comes from your veins. Dry sand comes out. It bites once, bites twice. It sees that it cannot feed. It gets bored and leaves. This is difficult to put into practice. Your insides will boil, putting that narcissistic person in their place. You will want to shout. But trust old Jungun's advice. For a provocateur, the greatest punishment is your absolute indifference. Listen to Lena's story. Layla was an angelic woman, but her mother-in-law was the very embodiment of the devouring mother archetype. The woman didn't talk, she barked orders. Every family dinner was an execution ceremony for Layla. Her mother-in-law would shout from the head of the table, "Layla, this soup turned out watery again. Are you too stingy to feed your husband meat, or are you just incompetent? And what's with that dress? It makes you look 10 years older." Every time, Layla would fall into the trap. Her eyes would fill with tears. But she would try to explain, saying, "I made it according to Mom's recipe." Her mother-in-law, on the other hand, would come alive at that moment. Color would return to her cheeks. She would feel her power. She fed her stomach with the bride's pain. It would give her enough energy until the following week. At the next meal, the mother-in-law went on the attack again. "Layla, I see you bought the cake from a bakery. A real woman bakes it herself at home." The table went ice cold. Everyone was waiting for Layla to cry. Looking down at her plate, Layla spoke flatly in the voice of an answering machine. "Yes, Mom, I bought it from a bakery." And she continued eating her meal. The mother-in-law was shocked. She got no reaction. She tried again. "My grandchild's grades have dropped. You're not taking care of the child." Layla stared blankly. "Could be. Sometimes they drop." The woman went crazy. She raised her voice. dug up old grievances and hurled insults. But Layla just built a wall by saying, I understand. You have a point too." 20 minutes later, the mother-in-law's face was bright red, but this time, not from victory, but from anger and burnout. He had run out of fuel. For the first time in years, he fell silent and retreated to his room, using a headache as an excuse. As for Layla, that evening she returned home full of energy, cheerful, and like a commander who had won a victory. After that day, her mother-in-law didn't bother her much. No one wants to break their teeth on stone. Remember, my friend, you don't have to be an extra in anyone's theater. Turn off your emotions and watch. The fourth technique, returning praise. Now let's talk a little about praise, those sweet words, compliments. You know, the "you're so beautiful, you're so smart" remarks we long to hear. In Jungian psychology, praise can sometimes be a more dangerous weapon than criticism. When criticism comes, you raise your shields and go on the defensive. But praise, when praise comes, you relax. "Yeah, they love me," you say, and you lower your armor. And at that very moment, the shadow hidden inside those sweet words slips in. Beneath the voice that says, "How wonderful your house is," lies that dark whisper asking, "Why don't I have a house like this?" Beneath the voice that says, "You and your husband look so happy," is the poison of their own loneliness. People may not do this consciously, but unconscious jealousy comes wrapped as a compliment. In Anatolia, they call this the evil eye. You receive the compliment. The next day, you're bedridden with illness. The fourth technique is to return the praise. That is, to hold up a mirror. You shouldn't keep this charged energy on yourself. If you say, "I'm amazing," you become arrogant. This makes you vulnerable. If you say, "Oh no, I'm ugly," you step into the victim role. What you need to do is gently but firmly receive that ball and send it back to its owner. How are you going to do that? You will shift the focus away from yourself and onto the other person. You will present the source of that compliment as their goodness. Let me explain this with a story. Let it be a story that takes place not in Zurich, but in our neighborhood. Aunt Suna and her friend Nermin. Aunt Suna is a woman who seems like a princess even in her everyday life. Her hair, appearance, and posture are noble. Nermin, on the other hand, is a woman consumed by malice inside, sweet-tongued but with an evil eye. Whenever Nermin praises Suna, something happens to Suna. "Oh, Suna, your skin is like a baby's." The poor woman wakes up the next day with a sore on her face. Suna now avoids Nermin at every turn. "She's consuming me with her love, drying me out," she says. She learns this technique from a wise person. One day, they run into each other at the door. Nermin immediately smiles like a hunter. "Oh, Ms. Suna, what elegance is this? This silk shawl has made you look 20 years younger. You're absolutely glowing. Let the jealous ones burst with envy." Suna no longer lowers her head in embarrassment like she used to. She looks right between Nermin's eyebrows, at that third eye point, and smiles with complete sincerity. "Oh, my dear Nermin, your heart is so beautiful, your eyes are so pure, that you see beauty everywhere you look. A person sees the outside world the way they are themselves. I am a reflection of your beautiful heart. May God give you twice as much as whatever you wish for me." Nermin is left speechless, unable to swallow, because Suna held up a mirror to her. That hidden poison of jealousy inside Nermin hit Suna's mirror-like response and bounced back to Nermin. By saying, "Your heart is beautiful," she cornered her. What can Nermin say? No, my heart cannot say something bad. That poison exploded within itself. After that day, Nermin could no longer praise Suna. She started just saying hello and moving on. When they tell you, "You're very smart," say, "I'm improving myself because I have valuable friends like you." When they tell you, "You're very beautiful," say, It's because of your beautiful way of looking. Throw the ball back to them. If their hearts are clean, they will be happy with this answer of yours. If their hearts are dirty, they will drown in their own filth, and you remain perfectly clean and safe. The fifth technique is the rule of keeping your mouth shut during illness. Now we come to the most valuable treasure in our lives, our health. There is a very important principle in Jungian alchemy studies. The vessel must be sealed. The container must be sealed so that no air can enter. Chemical transformation, that is, healing, can only occur in a closed vessel without leaking outward. When you get sick, are about to undergo surgery, or your body gives an alarm, it means your psychological armor has been pierced. That is the moment when the wall of a fortress collapses. Looks and words that normally have no effect on you enter directly inside at that moment. What do? We become childlike. We seek attention. He grabbed the phone and told everyone, "I'm in very bad shape. The doctor is suspicious. We'll explain it as if there's an operation." This is a suicide attempt. Why? First, because of pity. When people pity you, they do not give you love. According to Jung, pity is a heavy, sticky energy that fixes the other person in the status of a victim. 10 people tell you, "Oh dear, poor thing, I hope you get better, but it seems your situation is difficult." When you say it, they will have validated your illness with a collective mind. They will nail you to that bed. The second is hidden pleasure. The enemies you think are friends feel an inner sense of victory when they see your weak moment. Look, they say, they were so cool, and now they're in a state of need. These negative thought forms seep in through your open wound and delay your healing. The closed mouth rule is this. The injured animal retreats to the darkest den in the forest and makes no sound until it heals. It does not reveal its location to anyone. You will do the same. Only your doctor and even the person who gives you a glass of water will know your diagnosis. To everyone else, you are a little tired, on vacation, or doing fine. In a village, there was a man as strong as a wrestler. Let his name be Mehmet, and he was going to have heart surgery. Out of fear, the man called everyone and asked for their forgiveness. On social media, he wrote farewell messages like, "Don't forget me in your prayers, I'm leaving." The whole town talked about Mehmet's failing heart. Alas, he's passing away too. His face has turned pale, they said. That cloud of negative expectations became so dense that a simple operation turned into a complication. Mehmet almost died on the operating table. Then a wise physician said to Mehmet's wife, "My daughter, stop all this phone traffic. Don't tell anyone. Say, Mehmet is being discharged tomorrow fit as a fiddle. Tell a lie if you must, but protect your husband." The woman cut off communication. She stopped that flow of negative energy, and Mehmet recovered miraculously. Healing requires privacy. Do not involve third parties in that quiet conversation between the body and the soul. When they recover and get back on their feet, you can tell the story, but during the process, stay sealed. Technique 6. Refusal without excuses or royal favor. We've arrived at the inability to say no syndrome. The biggest problem of people who have merged with the persona of being a good person, that is, people who are attached to the mask of "I am a good person." What do you do when someone asks you for a loan, or when you're invited somewhere you don't want to go? You say no, but immediately attach a huge "because" wagon behind it. I can't come because my mother is sick. I can't give it because the house is under renovation. Jung says that the moment you explain yourself, you lose your power. The moment you offer an excuse, you are effectively saying to the other person, "Please validate the legitimacy of my decision." You step down from the judge's seat into the defendant's chair, and worst of all, excuses open the door to manipulation. If you say, "I'm renovating," he'll say, "Fine, give it to me next week." If you say, "I don't have a car," he'll say, "I'll pick you up." You'll end up having to lie. As you keep lying, you lose your self-respect. The technique of refusing without excuses takes courage, but it sets you free. No is a complete sentence on its own. Period. An acquaintance of ours, Uncle Musa, a very kind man who can't bring himself to upset anyone. He wants some peace and quiet at his summer house, but his entire extended family and all the neighbors keep inviting themselves over. Musa is exhausted from making up excuses on the phone every week. He says the sewage system burst. He says there's a virus going around, yet the shameless guests keep coming anyway. Musa lives in his own house like a squatter. In the end, a friend who follows Jung's principle gives him some advice. Musa, stop making excuses. Just say this weekend doesn't work for me and be quiet. Musa is afraid. They'll be offended. It would be rude. Let them, says my friend. Your peace is more valuable than their enjoyment. The phone rings. It's that neighbor calling. Musa, we bought the barbecue. We're coming. Musa takes a deep breath, looks at the paper in his hand, and reads. Salami, it's not convenient for me to host you this weekend. Silence. The other person is surprised. Why? Are you sick? Did something happen? Musa is sweating, but he keeps going. No, I just have plans and I'm not available. Plan D is sitting at home in pajamas. And after that silence, Salami says, Oh, okay then, maybe another time, and hangs up. If there's no excuse, there's no loophole. That weekend, for the first time in his life, Musa becomes the master of his own home. No explanations, buddy. I don't want to. I'm not available. No. This is your most natural right. Technique 7. The small stone in the shoe. Sometimes, no matter what you do, your success is very obvious. You may have pulled up in the latest model car. You may have lost an incredible amount of weight, or appeared in the newspaper. You can't hide it. The light may be dazzling everyone's eyes. This is the most dangerous moment. Because perfection triggers aggression in people. This is where you will use the small stone in the shoe technique. So you will deliberately and intentionally place a small flaw, a complaint, into that perfect picture. You will throw people a bone so that their jealousy can be transformed into feelings of pity or gratitude for their own situation. Jung's principle of the unity of opposites. If there is too much light, a little darkness is needed to balance it. For example, you bought a very luxurious historic apartment. Everyone looks at you with a mixture of admiration and resentment. Wow, they say some people really have lives. To bring down their energy, you'll say, the house is nice, but friends, don't even ask. Because it's a historic building, we can't even hammer in a nail. The plumbing is old. Sometimes the water runs rusty, and there's a piano course downstairs. Noise from morning till evening. Sometimes I say, that quiet, peaceful old house of mine was so nice. What did you do? You showed them it isn't perfect. At that moment, the other person relaxes. Aha, they say. Their house is like a palace, but their head is pounding. My house is quiet. Ah, I'm actually better off. Jealousy ends and gives way to, my brother, sister, may God grant patience. It becomes the consolation that even wealth is a difficult craft. Give them a reason to love you. Let them know that you suffer too. This small stone will save your long journey. And now the final and most critical warning. The ticking time bomb in your pocket is your phone, social media. As I said, apply all of these techniques. Keep your mouth shut tight. But if you have that damn habit of posting stories on that device, all of it will be for nothing. There is another rule in Jungian alchemy. If you open the lid before the process is complete, the spell is broken. We modern people have developed the habit of sharing before we've even lived. We lay the foundation and we post a photo. We start new projects, we write loading, we get engaged, we flaunt the ring. The pregnancy test comes back positive, We announce it to the world. An ancient law says, a seed sprouts in the dark. If, 5 minutes after planting the seed in the soil, you dig it up and expose it to the sun to see whether it's growing, that seed will die. When you share plans and dreams that haven't happened yet, haven't borne fruit yet, and haven't taken root yet, you dissipate the energy of that endeavor. When your brain receives those likes and congratulatory comments, it releases dopamine as if you've already succeeded, and you lose the motivation needed for real action. You also attract the evil eye and subconscious blockages of thousands of people onto yourself. The rule is this: only show what is finished, harvested, and stored in the granary. The house is finished. You moved into it. You lived there for a year. Then share the fireplace. The child was born and grew up. Then share it. Talk not about what will happen, but about what has already happened. My dear friend, the essence of the matter is this: a full barrel makes no noise. An empty can rattles loudly. The Creator loves silence and humility. Protect your own happiness, your own peace, like the sacred fire in a temple. Do not let everyone enter there. If what I've told you touched something within your soul, if this modern interpretation of Jung lit a light for you, subscribe to the channel to continue this journey and write this in the comments. Have you ever shared your plans too early and then had things go wrong? Share your experience so others can see how this principle works. May the power of silence be with you. See you in the next deep conversation. Until then, take care.